we're going to take a look at a video that was produced by ESPN, where ESPN decided that they were going to utilize Caitlin Clark's name as a form of clickbait. Now, I understand that most videos on YouTube and social media, they have to have some type of title that makes you want to click on them. I understand that. I'm part of the industry. I've had to learn that the hard way, that the exact topic type title might not get the viewership that one that's inflammatory will get. Now, I try to steer away from any inflammatory type titles and actually have a title that matches what I'm talking about. But many videos you see have titles that have nothing to do, large part, with what's being said on the video. This video by ESPN states, is Caitlin Clark the greatest of all time in college basketball? Now, one might think that because that's the title, that Caitlin Clark obviously has to be on this list. So when you hear a title like that, you expect that person to be a large part of the conversation, um, or at least in the conversation legitimately. So they use this clickbait title for ESPN. ESPN uses this for with a channel that has 13.5 million followers, subscribers. Now think about this, and here's what's crazy about this whole thing. This video only has 16,125 views, and they've got 13.5 million subscribers to ESPN's YouTube page. But we'll talk about that. We'll review this video in full. I'm not just going to clip it. I'm going to play the whole thing, and we'll talk about it as we go along. Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Rudy's Rant, powered by Come On Now, the podcast. I am your host, Rudy Rodriguez Showmont. We talk facts over feelings here, and there probably in this video will be some feelings, but I'll provide data, and you can make your decision as to what you think. But without further ado, this is a video with ESPN, Sam Ravitch, Alexa Philippou, and Ariel Chambers. Ariel Chambers is the tall woman in the middle, and she's the one that does a lot of the talking to make her point felt in this conversation. So let's jump in.
What does it take to become a college basketball legend? Well, first, you got to get buckets. I think that's pretty undisputed. I think second, you got to be competitive, have that fire to drive your teammates, right? Third, but certainly not least, you got to win. And you got to win a lot, right? Nobody embodied those qualities more than Diana Taurasi, who just announced her retirement from the WNBA relatively recently. So that got us thinking about her legacy. And what is her legacy exactly? Well, you look at what she's accomplished. 3-time NCAA champion with UConn Huskies. Keep in mind, they only won one national title before she even got there. That was back in 1995. 2-time tournament most outstanding player, 2-time Big East player of the year, 2-time first-team All-American. And oh, by the way, we haven't even gotten to what she did in the WNBA. We are just talking about college right now. So looking at her incredible resume, guys, with all of those accomplishments, we now ask, is Diana Taurasi the greatest women's college basketball player to ever exist? Now, before we start stressing about this assignment, this is just, we're doing it for fun, right? And
I'm going to respond off the rip on that one. And my first comment off of that would be Diana Taurasi won 2 National Players of the Year. Let's go back and bring up her stats again. She's a 2-time first-team All-American. She's a AP Player of the Year, a Naismith Player of the Year, and 2-time Conference Player of the Year. What she has is she also has 2-time Most Outstanding Player for 03 and 04, and a 3-time NCAA champion. Diana Taurasi played on a team that included Sue Bird, Asia Jones, Swin Cash, Shea Ralph, Tamika Williams. Diana Taurasi played with, over her 4 years, 22 WNBA players. Now, I'm going to use terminology in this video that includes McDonald's All-American, for which McDonald's All-American did not start until 2002. I'm using more McDonald's All-American for players that are older, I mean, younger. Whereas when it comes to Maya Moore, Candace Parker, and Diana Taurasi, I'm just going to speak on the teammates that they played with that ended up being professional basketball players. Now, when you look at this list, what do you see? You see someone that's played with truckloads of talent. So while they'll say they only won one national championship, it wasn't like Diana Taurasi was playing with scrubs. She was playing with superstars. She was playing with people that are going to be in the going to be or already are in the Basketball Hall of Fame. But let's continue. Let's go back to this.
Before we start stressing about this assignment, this is just we're doing it for fun, right? And we want to hear your guys' comments in YouTube. Let's keep it PG rated.
It spicy. I like
Okay, fair enough. But when we look at this list, and it's going to be really tough to come up with the top 5 players. Diana Taurasi, I think, is going to be on this list somewhere. The question is, where exactly is she going to be on this list? So let's go ahead and pull up our touchscreen here, and we will pick the top 5 players. Look, I think we all are in agreement. There's not much debate at number 1, right?
Yeah, that's the funny thing about this whole argument with Diana is that she's probably not even the best college player from her own program. Oh! Testament to UConn.
I know where you're going.
Yeah, we have to go with Brianna Stewart. I'm sorry. The 4 championships, the 4 tournament most outstanding player awards. I just think the resume speaks for itself there.
Listen, when you talk about Diana Taurasi in particular, Gino said she's the best winner of all time. I'm looking at the best winner of all time, Brianna Stewart. And we're not, too old to remember and too young to remember. They had like a string of 100 wins. Like
111.
They didn't lose.
They did not lose. And they don't have as much help as we would think around it. Like, I mean, let's not get crazy.
Yeah.
McDonald's All-Americans.
I know what you're saying.
But Stewie really got out there and showed what it took to win, and not just like subtle wins, but like dominant wins. These were like, I remember my friend played against them in one of the island tournaments. They beat them like 113-30. It wasn't even like a little.
But that's not abnormal.
See, the fact that she brought that up actually hurts the argument. It hurts the argument. The Brianna Stewart argument to me is the biggest scam on earth, because using a statement like that and saying, oh, well, they won a game like 113-30. So how many points did Brianna Stewart average again? Let's go review what Brianna Stewart averaged in college. So they won 113-30 in a game. Again, I didn't bring that number up. She did. Brianna Stewart's career points per game, 17.6. Brianna Stewart as a freshman averaged 13.8 points per game. She wasn't even the best player on her team as a freshman. Yeah, she won a national championship. She was on a team that included Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis, Stephanie Dolson, Kelly Ferris, Bria Hartley, Morgan Tuck, Mariah Jefferson, and Kaya Stokes. Understand that is, and she's on that team as well. So 8 players on that team played in the WNBA. 8. Brianna Stewart was the 3rd best player on that team, the 3rd leading scorer on that team. So she wasn't even the best player on her team as a freshman. When you win a game 113-38, or whatever the hell it was, that means that there are a lot of people on that team that are really damn good. That means you are playing on a loaded squad. Loaded squad. Yeah, they won all those games in a row. They did. Can't take that away from her. You cannot take that away from her. But does that make her the greatest player of all time because she was on one of the most loaded rosters in college basketball history? And consider the fact that team, her freshman year, lost 4 games. They were 35-4. That was the worst season in her career. 4 losses. And they won the national championship by 33. By 33. But also consider the fact that from that team that lost 4 games, three of the 4 losses that they had that year came against Notre Dame. They lost 3 times to Notre Dame. Three of their 4 losses were to Notre Dame. Notre Dame that year was 35-2. But Notre Dame finally got in the national championship. I'm sorry, in the Final Four by UConn. They finally got them in the Final Four. So think about that. You lost to that team 3 times, but 1 time you played well, and you beat them. UConn probably wasn't even the best team in the country that year, just based on that. But they won the 1 game that mattered, the one in the national championship, even though they lost to that same team 3 times prior, including in the conference tournament championship, at home and on the road. So let's, again, we have to consider talent level around this team. That was a very talented team. Now, you want to walk into the next season? Again, 8 WNBA players on that team. They were undefeated, 40-0. The year after, they go 38-1. Again, 8 WNBA players. Now you have Gabby Williams, Kia Nurse on that squad. Sanaya Chong. Then you go to her final year, 38-0. Again, 8 WNBA players. Brenna Stewart played with 28 WNBA players on her teams. That doesn't even go into the fact where you look at how many McDonald's All-Americans coming out of high school were on her teams. Or I calculated that at 8, 15, 23, 32 McDonald's All-Americans in her 4 years. But I only put that out there because talking about championships and how many titles you win and all that stuff, ignoring who your teammates are is disingenuous.
That was a normal occurrence.
And it's all going through Brianna Stewart.
All going through Stewie.
Yeah.
One loss.
No, it wasn't, because her freshman year, she wasn't the best player on her team. So again, I asked the question, if she wasn't the best player on her team as a freshman on these loaded squads, she was not the best player on her team. Like, I don't understand, like, how that's a complicated conversation. How is that a complicated conversation? She wasn't the best player on her squad.
From her sophomore through senior
She
year.
didn't know how to
One
lose.
loss.
Comical.
She didn't know how to lose.
No.
Apparently, she didn't know how to lose, but everyone else knew how to lose. Like, I don't know. I don't know. You tell me. Again, I'm going to put it out there again. She didn't know how to lose. Please explain to me what that means. Please explain what that means. Because last I checked, she had teammates. 32 that were, including her. She's part of the 32 who played in the WNBA. Every year, she had 7 WNBA teammates on her teams with her.
And real quick, that freshman year was tough for her because she turned it on at the right time, played her best basketball in March, and that's why she's a 4-time champion, not just even a 3-time champion.
And a 4-time tournament most outstanding player.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, not only did you get the championship, but you were the best one on the championship team each.
No, you weren't. She had a 5-game stretch where she may have been the best player for 5 games, but for 39 games, she wasn't their best player. See, this is disingenuous reporting. Ariel Chambers already has her agenda created. Philip, who over here on the right, has her agenda created. This guy, Sam Ravitch, on the left, is a puppet. He has no comments. He's just going to let them run them over because that's what these males that discuss women's basketball at ESPN do. They just allow the female reporters to dominate and say whatever they want to say and let them say whatever's on their mind, but they'll never actually open their mouth. But let's continue.
Time.
Okay. All right.
Only
We start with one. Let's work our way backwards now.
Oh,
We'll work our way backwards
no, Sam.
from 5 to 1. I'm going by what I'm told here. So let's go with number 5. Obviously, we have 10 players down there. There are so many players that could fit in the top 5 here. I feel like we almost have to do a 5A and 5B, but let's give me a number 5. Give me something. Give me something.
Okay. I'm going to start with Cheryl Miller.
Okay.
Your favorite player's favorite player. I'll put her 5. Right? Like, Cheryl Miller was the truth. She's a 2-time NCAA champion, 2-time tournament most outstanding player, 3-time Naismith Player of the Year, and Jersey retired at SC, and now we can see a resurgence of the University of Southern California right now with Juju Watkins. She's in the front row cheering them on, saying, yes, you better be a product of me.
For us to talk about Cheryl Miller here because she didn't have the opportunity to play in the WNBA. So I think sometimes her legacy isn't always given the shine it deserves, but she was such a transcendent player in college. She is, and some people you talk to, she is their GOAT. So I think that she's absolutely deserving to be in this top 5. Maybe
She's my
higher.
GOAT.
Yeah,
She's my GOAT.
there you go.
I think something that's going to be in common for all of these players, numbers are retired.
Yep.
Numbers are retired in their respective home arenas. All right. Let me throw a little wrinkle in here.
Okay. There we go.
What if we switched?
Ooh.
I'm just saying.
Okay, well, Sam,
This is all food for thought.
So here's the thing. Love Caitlin. Love how she's transcended the game. I'm not going to go away from that. But in the open, we said, what makes a top 5 player? Winning. The only strike against Caitlin Clark is that she has not won a national championship. And that is the only thing that you can put against her, because the way she has dominated the record books when she was at Iowa was something you could not duplicate. She's a 3-time NCAA scoring leader and assist leader, a true point guard for the people, 3-time All-American, 2-time Naismith Player of the Year, 2-time AP Player of the Year, all-time leading scorer. She broke the records of Kelsey Plum and Sabrina. Like, literally, there is nobody who has been such a front-facing name through a direct reflection of her skill set. But how can you be a top 5 player if you have not won a title?
It's a great point, which is why I agree with you. Convince me, Ari. We're switching them back.
Again.
What a week, man. Well, first of all, the fact that you're putting her at 5 is a joke. Is this a team award or is this an individual situation? Last I checked, the greatest player is not a team situation. It's an individual situation. Is Michael Jordan considered the greatest player of all time to many people because of Scottie Pippen or Dennis Rodman? Or is he considered the greatest player of all time to many people because he's the greatest player of all time? Is he considered the greatest player of all time because he won 6 championships? Or is he considered the greatest player of all time because he is the greatest player of all time? Their argument here is based on Breanna Stewart won 4 championships in 4 years. That's literally what they started off with. If that's the case, then Bill Russell is the greatest NBA player of all time. So it's illogical. I'm not saying winning isn't important. But what is your definition of winning? What is the definition of winning? Is it winning is winning the national championship or the NBA championship or the WNBA championship? Is that what is determined as winning? You need teammates. You need teammates. Caitlin Clark elevated the teammates that she had. I just went over the fact that Breanna Stewart played with 32 WNBA players. I'm sorry, 28 WNBA players, 32 WNBA players, 32 McDonald's All-Americans, whatever it is. A lot of superstars. A lot of superstars. LeBron James is considered a top 5 guy. Is he considered a top 5 guy because he's won 4 titles? Because if it's winning, it's based on winning, then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar should probably be ahead of LeBron James. Kareem, Who else? Who another one? Magic, Kobe. Just off Duncan. So all these guys won more championships than LeBron James. But I don't think anyone's arguing that LeBron James isn't better than Magic, and some people might. But again, we're basing something on winning. Caitlin Clark took 2 talent void teams to the national championship game and played against teams that were stacked with All-Americans, McDonald's All-Americans. Because we now have McDonald's All-Americans. UConn's team last year in the Final Four had 10 McDonald's All-Americans. Everyone on that court that played for UConn was a McDonald's All-American. The year before, against South Carolina, McDonald's All-Americans. The LSU team that beat Iowa in the national championship, McDonald's All-Americans, loaded. The South Carolina team that beat Iowa in the Natty, loaded with 9 or 10 McDonald's All-Americans. What are you talking about? Iowa had Caitlin Clark. The women on Caitlin Clark's team at Iowa would not have made the teams at South Carolina, UConn, LSU. The only player from their team that would have been able to play on those teams is Caitlin Clark, and she would have been the best player on all 3 of those teams. They didn't win the championship. She won a lot of flipping games. I think she probably won over 100 games at Iowa. Kaya Stolke will not be in the WNBA. The only reason Kate Martin is in the WNBA is because of Caitlin Clark. Gabby Marshall's getting a grad degree. A Falter will not be in the WNBA. Lucy Olson wasn't her teammate, and she may not be in the WNBA. She has no teammates that are WNBA level players. Kate Martin is there because Caitlin Clark was her friend, and she supported her. That's why I think Kate Martin is in the WNBA. I think Kate Martin's a good player. Yeah. Is she a WNBA level player? Marginal. But okay, you got one. You got one. Cesano was drafted, but again, didn't even make a team. Winning? You need teammates. Cheryl Miller? Amazing. You know, one of her teammates was Cynthia Cooper, Pam and Paula McGee. These women are some of the, back then, Cooper, 4-time champion in the WNBA in her mid-30s. Like, think of how good Cynthia Cooper was. If Caitlin Clark had one player, the level of any one of Breanna Stewart's teammates at UConn, or a Cynthia Cooper, or a Sue Bird, or an Asia Jones, or a Tamika Williams, or looking at the other players that they're going to mention. But looking at these players, if she had one player of that level on her team, they win. Even better yet, if they have one player bigger than 6'2" last year on their team, they probably beat South Carolina. But she didn't go for 41, and her team got absolutely mud stomped on the glass because they were too small. But this is preposterous. You clickbaited an article, and Caitlin Clark's not even in your top 5. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry, clickbaited a video. And you just went over a bunch of accolades to tell us how amazing she was. This is an individual situation. You are giving away team awards for an individual situation. This isn't the WNBA. If we want to have this conversation in 10 years about the greatest WNBA player, and Caitlin Clark has not won a championship in the WNBA, then I'm on board. You got me. You got me. But comparing college women's basketball to professional basketball, where there were two teams for 20 years that dominated college women's basketball, being Connecticut and Tennessee, for 20 years, you had two teams dominating the entire country. And when they lost to each other. Yeah, there's some sprinkled in champions here and there. But the large majority of rings from 1990 to now, to 2015, was Tennessee and UConn. Or 85 to Tennessee and UConn. I know La Tech was in there. North Carolina did a little bit. Notre Dame a little bit. And then it became South Carolina. Like, what are we talking? Like, this is preposterous. Baylor, I know Baylor got a couple in there and all that. But the country was dominated largely by two programs. And when they lost to each other. It's about talent. If your team is stacked with talent, you're probably going to win. This isn't professional basketball. I'm going to tell you right now, yes, did I pick Indiana to win the championship this year? Yes, I did. Would it shock me if they didn't win? No. These are pros. It wouldn't shock me because these are professional basketball players. Does Indiana have probably the most talent this year? Yeah. Have any one of these teams ever lost while not having the most talent? Yeah, people lose when they have more talent. It happens all the time in sports. That's why you play. That's why you play. But when you're so loaded, it's like a varsity versus a JV, sans one player. It's really the likelihood of that is they were 11-point dogs against South Carolina 2 years ago in the Final Four. Caitlin Clark went for 41. Like, these are performances for the ages. Did Iowa lose to LSU and South Carolina in the championship games because of Caitlin Clark? No. They wouldn't even been in the game if it wasn't for Caitlin Clark. They would have been blown the hell out if she hadn't played the way to even a marginal level. And she didn't play great in either one of those games. But they wouldn't have even been in the game if it wasn't for her. Like, in the game. Like, there wouldn't have been even competitive. That game against South Carolina last year was the 6-point game with about 5 minutes to go, if I remember correctly. But this nonsense, you just read off all these accolades. Accolade after accolade after accolade after accolade after accolade. This is an individual. Who is the best player? Not who was on the best team or who was the best player on the best team. Would Breanna Stewart have won 4 national championships in Iowa? Fuck no. Would she have won 1? Fuck no. Would Diana Taurasi? Fuck no. Would Cheryl Miller? Fuck no. None of the players on this list would have won a natty at Iowa the last 2 years. None of them would have taken that team to the national championship the last 2 years. None of them would. But let's continue.
We read Cheryl Miller's resume. She's a winner. She's a winner multiple times. Yeah. But like, I have a really hard time. It's like paining me to leave Caitlin off this list because of the record, because of what she's done outside of those 94 feet. She has really thrust women's basketball in the mainstream. She has collected her individual accolades. I
get it. I hear you. I get it. Oh. If picking 5 was hard, picking the final 3 are going to be even harder.
Help me.
Alexa, help us out with number 4.
Gosh,
help us out with number 4.
Okay.
We got some more players here, by the way.
I was going to say, we're missing someone that I think needs to be in this conversation. Now, you guys tell me if because I live in Connecticut, have too much of a UConn mind frame.
Well, you got two UConn fans here on the set. So I mean,
you just made your entire fucking list useless. You got 2 UConn fans here on the set. I've lived in Connecticut. They're UConn fans. How are you in this conversation if you're a UConn fan? Like, come on, man.
You can't say Maya Moore isn't top 5. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna be on your side, Alexa.
I just want to make sure here. But I mean,
Maya Moore.
again, 2 titles. We're talking about a 4-time All-American, someone who was transcendent in the way she played, of course. I think we have to have her on this list, right?
And I know this is about college, but when you look at her pro career, she's done so much in such a short time and has really, really just produced. And that's a direct reflection of what she did in college too. Production. She gives you production. She's the one that you never, ever, ever want to face.
Right.
Ever.
She did it all too. I mean,
Everything.
The way that she was just like a two-way force. When you look at the record books, especially, whether it's UConn or just more broadly, I mean, she was top 10 leaderboard in so many different categories. So I think she gets a lot of credit for what she's able to do in that.
One of my favorite movies, The Sandlot. Heroes get remembered, legends never die. Legend right there in Maya Moore. And
I'm gonna stop it right there again. The fact that Ariel Chambers again, she went off script. She brought up WNBA success. Isn't it funny how she brought up WNBA winning now? See, you can't ignore the WNBA. Yeah, you actually can. This is a conversation about college, right? Again, we can talk about this. Sorry, it's in my ear. That's weird. If you had to start a team, would you start a team with Maya Moore or Breanna Stewart? I asked that question, and I would love to hear what you have to say in the comments. Because Maya Moore is better than Breanna Stewart. Maya Moore is a better basketball player than Breanna Stewart. Maya Moore had a better college career than Breanna Stewart. The numbers will tell you that. The numbers. Maya Moore was a not 1, not 2, not 3, 4-time first-team All-American. 4 times. Breanna Stewart wasn't even the best player on her team as a freshman. So that's why that championship argument is, don't care. The championship is cute. 4-time All-American. 2-time Player of the Year. But again, 4-time. So she was an All-American as a freshman. Breanna Stewart was not. Like I said, Breanna Stewart was not even the best player on her team as a freshman. So remember that part. You want to ignore that part. Yeah, Breanna Stewart then won 3 Players of the Year in a row and 3-time All-American. Maya Moore was a 4-time first-team All-American. Caitlin Clark was a 4-time first-team All-American. Caitlin Clark's numbers dwarf all of their numbers in scoring and assists. Dwarf them. Maya Moore averaged 19, 8, and 3.5. 28 and 3.5. She shot 52.5% from the field. She's 6 foot tall. She's a guard. Maya Moore's a beast. Maya Moore's better than Breanna Stewart. And that's what what are we talking about? Are we talking about a team award? Or are we talking about an individual thing? And Maya Moore went to UConn too. Maya Moore played with great talent at UConn. Maya Moore did not play with as many superstars as Breanna Stewart did. She had 21 WNBA players on her team. I didn't go through the McDonald's All-Americans, but just such as, these are some of the names. Tina Charles, Renee Montgomery, Kedia Shaner, Sharday Houston, Austin, Kalana Green, Tiffany Hayes, Kelly Ferris, Stephanie Dolson, Bria Hartley. Those are her teammates in college. Loaded squads. Maya Moore is better than Breanna Stewart. But as we see the continuing theme here, you got 2 UConn fans on this panel, and they're obviously biased as shit, and they have no objectivity into reality. They go by one thing. Who won the most championships?
obviously we have some more legends to fill in here, Ari. I'm coming to you for number 3.
You know, this whole segment we started off talking about Diana Taurasi. So can I pull it? Can I try?
Go ahead.
Do
Yeah.
it.
Oh, this is difficult.
You got it. You killed
Oh,
it.
Sam, you make it.
We
look
got a
so
lot
easy.
of UConn on this list. We got a lot.
That's
We're
a
gonna hear it.
testament to what UConn has built over the years. Gino Ariema has sustained success and dominant sustained success with Connecticut teams, no matter which generation. Diana Taurasi, y'all heard it already before, why she's so dominant, why she will be remembered as one of the GOATs completely. She's a winner. She is the villain. Sue Bird was talking about on her podcast how if Diana was born later in life, that she would be the Caitlin Clark of it. Like she would literally, she's what everybody loves. A winner.
Yeah.
She's a producer. She's the villain.
Yep.
She loves, she thrives in that type of energy to make mainstream success.
We're running out of time, so
Sorry.
I want to give you a thought on DT, and then we're going on to number 2.
Of course, real quick about Diana. Obviously, she was on that 2002 team, which is arguably one of the greatest teams of all time. But I think what makes her a perfect fit for this top 5 is because she really carried those UConn teams in 2003 and 2004 on her back. Those teams did not have a bunch of All-Americans. They really just were, it was her and her will to uplift others around her that she was able to lead those teams to titles. So I love that she's on this list.
The beginning of the true dynasty. Sorry,
I'm gonna go with number 2, and let's throw a little orange and white in
There we
mix
go.
here.
Got to get some Tennessee in here.
Don't Candace Nicole Parker step up to the plate, honey.
When you're talking about the UConn, time frame when all 3 of these players were playing, there was one team out there.
I want to stop this again. I just want to counter the comment from Alexa Philippou, who said that Diana Taurasi carried the UConn teams in 03 and 04, right? I want to counter that. The no talent teams. The no talent teams. She had played with 4. She had 4 teammates who played in the WNBA. 4. The team the year before that, she had 4. I'm just curious what she's talking about when she says no talent teams. These no talent teams. And remember what I said. They beat each other. Who did UConn beat in 03, 04? Tennessee. Who did they beat the year before that? Tennessee. So who they beat to get to the championship the year before that? Tennessee. I just find it interesting that you ignored the fact that she had all those All-Americans. I'm not All-Americans, all those WNBA players. You act like Diana Taurasi played with stiffs. She played with 8. She had on her team her freshman year, there were 8 WNBA players. The next year, her second year, 7. The year after, 5. And the year after that, 5. Please don't tell me she played with no talent. I don't want to hear that shit.
There that would give them some trouble. Candace Parker in Tennessee was that team. You look at what she has accomplished in her career, 2-time champion, 2-time most outstanding player. Not only won the championship twice, but she was most outstanding player in that tournament. So I think when you're looking at duration, success that she had at Tennessee and elevating a program, it's hard to pick somebody else outside of Candace Parker. This is our top 5. We want to hear from you guys at home, though, in YouTube. Give us a hit in the comments. Look, it's incredibly challenging to pick the 5, but obviously when you make these top 5 lists, somebody inevitably gets left off. Who do you have the biggest gripe with getting left off?
I mean, we talked about Caitlin, obviously, but
Very big gripe.
Brittany Griner, and like, how do we not have her? I mean,
Right.
that was a player that really had such an impact on the college game.
Alyssa,
too.
the 3 to C, and then let's not forget how she was texting and tweeting us about how she's about to throw it down and dunk that after she promised. What?
I know, and a champion in her own right too.
Literally.
Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts at home. But this all circles around the GOAT, Diana Taurasi.
So now you heard that nonsense. Candace Parker, I'll touch on Candace Parker as well. Candace Parker did not play as a freshman because she had blown her knee out. She only played 3 years at Tennessee. In the 3 years at Tennessee, she played with 17 WNBA players. So her teams didn't stink either. just a reminder, her teams didn't stink. Her teams were really good. Her talent around her was incredible. And even her freshman year, the one that she didn't play in, they had 7 WNBA players. Over the 4 years, she had 23 24 WNBA players, including herself. I'm including these individuals because they are WNBA themselves. But her teammates, she's loaded. She had loaded teams. I love Candace Parker. I will tell you this. If you want to argue certain things and you want to sit here and say that some players should be on there and some players shouldn't be on there, I will tell you this. Of those 5 players, of those 5 on that list, the worst player is Breanna Stewart. The worst of them is Breanna. The worst is Breanna Stewart. And they made her number 1. Like, think of how silly that sounds. She is the worst of the 5. But beyond all that, Caitlin Clark, it's an individual accomplishment. If you put Caitlin Clark on those teams, Caitlin Clark loaded with if Caitlin Clark had that many players on her team that were that good in the last 2 years, they would have won the national championship 3 straight times at bare minimum. Bare minimum. But the last 2 years, they absolutely would have won the championship. But she's playing with women that were not very good. That's what made her so unreal. That's what made her must see. That's what made you turn on the TV. And for those of you who don't like Caitlin Clark, I don't care what you think. You just had an ESPN panel that titled something about Caitlin Clark and then took a shit on Caitlin Clark because she had not won a national championship and uses winning a national championship when winning national championships, winning WNBA championships, winning championships at that level are team accomplishments. But hey, what do I know? What do I know? What do I know? She made Kia Stolke's percentage around the rim it's like 70% with Caitlin Clark. This year, it's under 50. You tell me the impact of a player when your productivity drops by 20+% because she's not on your team anymore. You tell me. Caitlin Clark, as far as I'm concerned, is number 1. She's the greatest collegiate player I've ever seen. If you want to give me one argument, I'll have the conversation about Maya Moore. But my list is Caitlin Clark, Maya Moore, Candace Parker, Diana Taurasi, Cheryl Miller. Breanna Stewart's not even in the top 5. You're giving this woman gifts because she played on loaded squads. Of all the players on that list, Breanna Stewart had more talent around her than any player in college women's basketball history. But you let me know your thoughts. Love knowing what you have to say. Leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it, let everyone know. Appreciate y'all. This is Rudy's Rant. We talk facts over feelings. Come on now.